Oh, Mrs. Garcia, how do you balance it all? You're a school counselor and new homeowner, a mother of two, and grad student. You're an ander. At National University, we see the whole you. That's why we're dedicated to your professional growth through faculty mentorships and career support, so you can focus on what matters most. National University, supporting the whole you. Learn more at nu.edu.
Though it may be known as America's pastime, baseball has spread across the world. Though the MLB is trying to come back, there is still some money to be made overseas, and Greg Peterson is going worldwide to hit a grand slam for your bankroll. From the return of baseball in the States to daily KBO picks, all the bases covered on the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson. So here is the International King of Swing.
Hey, warm hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. We've got a great show for you. As you guys know, this is now a worldwide betting podcast for baseball because, unfortunately, the MLB has yet to get us this season. So we're going to be checking in the second segment with William Boor. Does a great job of working for MLB.com as a reporter/analyst. He looks a lot at the minor league side of things, and he's based out there in the state of Arizona, where so many of these proposals have really been stemming from. So many of the negotiations between Rob Manfred and Tony Clark have taken place there. So we're going to get his take on everything that's going on with that in the second segment. And in the final segment, going to be giving you a side and total on every game on both the NPB and KBO betting board as we touch them all. First things first, always love to be able to answer your Twitter questions. If there's something that you'd like answered on the podcast, fire it into my timeline at JRScordy1. If you send these via DM, aka direct message, well, those letters DM to me does not matter. But if you send them into the timeline, more than happy to give you guys an answer. Really did not get in any today, so let's take a look back at yesterday's results, try to find some trends in both the KBO and NPB, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
The hottest team in the NPB right now is the Yomiuri Giants. They are currently the only undefeated team. They were able to take down the Hiroshima Carp by a count of 3-2. By the way, Ruby De La Rosa is the closer for Yomiuri, so that was very interesting. In this one, the Giants were able to get a run in the first inning. Both teams had 7 hits, so you really didn't have a lot of power. The real interesting part of this game was the Hiroshima Carp playing a little bit of a lower scoring game, as throughout a lot of the preseason they had been playing games in which either they were getting a touchdown on the board or they were giving one up, but Ryoma Nishikawa was able to get his first home run of the campaign. That was in support of the Hiroshima Carp, just wasn't able to get a lot around there. And Ruby De La Rosa is actually now the closer for the Yomiuri Giants. He was able to get his second save of the campaign. The Tokyo Yakult Swallows wound up giving Gabriel Yanoa a start, and you know what? He sucked, as he winds up going 5 innings, giving up 4 runs, all of which were earned, and the Yakult Swallows wind up losing by a count of 4-1 to the Hanshin Tigers, a team that had started out 0-3 this year. For Hanshin, they were able to get a home run in this one, and they were able to get one off of a name that you might actually remember, as Jeffrey Marte wound up taking in Noah for a ride as he gave up 3 runs in the first inning. And in this one, Nori, don't call me Steve Aoki, wound up having a double as well. That's another familiar face. And then from there, the bullpen of the Hanshin Tigers was able to do a very good job, as they were able to go to their bullpen for 3 strong. They wound up giving up just 1 run. And for the Yakult Swallows, you got to give them credit. They've got a solid bullpen. They went 4 strong as well to be able to maintain that under. And speaking of another under that wound up going down, you had a game with a grand total of 3 runs and 22 hits between the Chinichurri Dragons and the Yokoma Dana Bay Stars. And Abebe, the Bay Stars, wound up being able to get the job done by a count of 3-0. In this one, the Dana Bay Stars were able to get 2 runs in the 5th, 1 run in the 6th, and for the Chinichurri Dragons, they were just leaving men on base left, right, and sideways. It was absolutely insane, as Hamaguchi wound up going for the Bay Stars. 8.1 innings, he scatters, and I don't even know if you can call 10 hits scattering them. He clumped 10 hits, but he wound up being able to get out of every single jam, so that was something to really behold. And in this one, you had 1 home run that was really the difference maker for the Dana Bay Stars. That was off the bat of Toshiro Mizaka. That was his second home run of the campaign. He is a two-time All-Star in the NPB, so he was able to get the job done for the Dana Bay Stars. So for that, we say, hey, baby. The Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks are the team that has won 5 out of the last NPB titles, but they are now off to a 1-3 start as they wound up falling to the Cebu Lions by a count of 11-3. The highlight of this game was for the Cebu Lions. They wound up getting a grand slam off the bat of a name that is going to sound very familiar to so many of you, Corey Spangenberg, as Matt Moore in his first start for the SoftBank Hawks just got completely lit up. He only goes 4 innings. We remember he was hurt for much of last year while he was trying to pitch for the Detroit Tigers. Gave up those 4 runs, all of which were earned. He just was not good in this one. And for the Hawks, they wind up giving up 5 earned runs. Then they gave up another unearned run out of the bullpen as well. And for the Cebu Lions, they did a very good job out of their bullpen as the bullpen went 3 2/3 innings. They wind up not giving up a single earned run. So they were certainly able to get the job done there. For the Oryx Buffaloes, they wound up gas canning their game against the Chibalote Marines as they took a 5-4 lead into the bottom of the 9th inning. And then the Marines never gave up fighting, and they were able to get the win in this one. And for the Marines, you had Brandon Laird be able to get his first home run of the campaign in this one. That was obviously very fascinating as Andrew Albers did not have a very good start in this one. He wound up going 6 innings for the Oryx Buffaloes, but he gave up 4 runs, all of which were earned. And then what's even more concerning is that you had an American-born pitcher as the closer for this team. You actually are going to find that quite a bit with regards to the NPB, as coming in to try to get the close in this one, that'd be Brandon Dixon, a former not-so-great with the St. Louis Cardinals. And wouldn't you know it, he gave up 2 runs in the 9th inning. That was not very good, but if you are looking for something that is really awesome, Andrew Jones wound up going yard in this game. His first of the campaign, he's actually been doing a very good job out there in the country of Japan, so you've got to give him a little bit of credit, and you also have to give a little bit of credit to the fact that the bullpen of the Marines were able to hold down the 4th. They wind up going 3 1/3 innings. They give up just 1 run in the process after their starter wound up getting blown up a little bit. And the Ham Fighters, well, they did not wind up going ham Tuesday morning as they wind up losing to the Rakuten Eagles by a count of 4-0. For the Eagles, they were certainly soaring in this one with their pitching as Hayatu Hujay wound up giving a very nice start in this one. And this is a very fun name to say. Hayatu Hujay wound up going 6 2/3 innings. He gave up 3 hits. He punched out 6. He didn't give up a single earned run. Nick Martinez got the start for the Ham Fighters, and well, he gave up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. Good news for the Ham Fighters. They were able to get 3 scoreless innings out of the bullpen, and for the Fighters of Ham, there was just nothing going for them. They were able to get a grand total of 5 hits. It certainly was not going well for them. And for the Eagles, they just did a very good job of being able to get a little bit of long bomb power in this one, including a home run off the bat of Sergio Romero, his first home run of the campaign, and you can tell that there's actually some very familiar names out there in the NPB. And looking at the NPB standings right now, you've got the Chiba Lotte Marines and also the Eagles both at 3-1. And as I mentioned, right now your lone undefeated team, that'd be the Yomiuri Giants at 4-0. And then taking a look at the KBO, you had one game in which there was a badly blown lead. The Kia Tigers got an absolutely superb start out of Aaron Brooks. He winds up going 7 strong innings, does not give up a single earned run. His bullpen lets him down there as Lotte is able to strike for 1 run in the 8th inning, 3 runs in the 9th. They get the win over the Tigers by a count of 4-3. In this one, Junwon So wound up going 5 innings for Lotte. He wound up giving up 3 runs. And for the Kia Tigers, they were once again just let down by Preston Tucker. He goes 0 for 4 in this one. Feels like he's possibly the biggest feast or famine bat that you're going to find out there in the KBO, but Jungwoo Cha was able to get a home run. He's hitting a little bit above a 300 for the Kia Tigers. 35-year-old Aegis Wonder was able to get the job done. And then if you're taking a look at the Giants of Lotte, they were able to get the job done with Jun Tae Kim coming in as a pinch hitter. He was able to go 2 for 2 with 2 RBI as a pinch hitter, so he certainly was able to help out the cause. When you're taking a look at foreign-born pitchers, Chris Flexen is one of the better ones that you're going to find out there in the KBO. He was a little bit banged up to begin the month, but he certainly had his best outing of the year against the SK Wyverns Tuesday morning. Doosan takes down SK by a count of 9-2. In this one for Chris Flexen, he winds up going 6 innings. He gives up 2 runs in the process, and the bullpen of Doosan is looking much better. 3 innings of scoreless baseball. I will say this, they were in danger a lot, as in those 3 innings, they gave up a combined 7 hits, but they were able to get out of it, and Taeyoon Kim, he got lit up like a Christmas tree, giving up 6 runs over the course of 5 innings. Bullpen from there, they wind up giving up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 4 innings. our man Jae-woon Ha, who I always say is Korean for blown save, he wound up not coming into this one. And what else is very interesting with what we all saw from the Doosan Bears is that hitters 2 through 4 wound up having 8 out of the team's 13 hits. So talk about middle of the lineup getting the job done. That is the case there. Something else that's getting the job done, fading Anwar, as the Eagles have now lost 24 out of their last 27 games, all by 2+ runs. They get crushed by the Samsung Lions by a count of 11-4. Now in this one, Chad Bell actually looked solid in his first couple innings. He winds up going 5 2/3. Things wound up unraveling for him in the 6th as he gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned. The fielding did him and Jin Young Kim absolutely no favors as Kim wound up coming in to relieve him. He gives up 3 runs after that, but none of those were earned. But then the other bullpen arms, they wind up going and combined 2 and third innings. They give up 4 runs, all of which were earned. And Chae Young Cha, who was getting the start for the first time in about 2 weeks, came off the injured list. He had given up 11 runs combined in his last 2 starts prior to going on the injured list. And in this one, he wound up getting the job done. How about 6 innings, giving up 1 run? Bullpen from there, it was solid for this team. They wind up giving up a grand total of 3 runs over the course of 3 innings, but they were putting in a lot of their less than trustworthy guys because they had such a big lead. And let's face it, it is the Anwar Eagles, and it is the typical NC Dinos to be able to get a win. They take down the KT Wiz, better known as the Smiling Blobs, by a count of 4-3, and Audrey Semer d'Espagne is continuing to struggle. He winds up giving up 4 runs over the course of 6 innings in this one. He has now given up 4+ earned runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and he's given up at least 6 hits in each out of his last 5 starts, and in 6 out of his last 7. So needless to say, bottom is falling out there. He has given up at least 2 walks in each out of his last 4 starts, as well as for the NC Dinos. They were able to get a little bit of yard work in this one as Yuji Yang, he was able to go yard in this one. He is the catcher that was injured throughout much of last week. He is back to the fold. He's hitting a little bit above a 300. His 7th home run in the campaign. And for the NC Dinos, very solid start out of Drew Rucinski. 7 innings pitch, winds up giving up 3 runs. He did wind up giving up 2 home runs. Mel Rojas got his 100th home run in the KBO. He was able to go deep in this one. And then Jung Dae Bae said, "Hey, baby, I'm going to be going yard," as he is now hitting a 348, and he's got 3 home runs on the season. He had 1 career home run coming into this year, so got to give him a lot of credit. He has really flourished, and speaking of flourishing, that is exactly what we are seeing with the Kiwoom Heroes. They take down the LG Twins by a count of 8-3. For the Kiwoom Heroes, they were able to get a lot of power in this one. Byung-ho Park, who had been struggling to begin the year but was the leader in the KBO in home runs last season, he goes deep not once but twice in this one. How about a 4-for-4 day? He has now raised his batting average to 228. It was 205 coming into this one. Looks like he might be out of his slump. And then you had Dunwon Park going yard. He is one of the better hitting catchers that you're going to find in the KBO. 302 batting average now. His 9th home run of the campaign. In this one, the LG Twins wound up having Young Sik Kim get the start, and well, Mr. Kim was not able to get the job done. This was, I believe, his first career start. As he goes 5 innings, he gives up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, including 2 long balls. Bullpen for the LG Twins has really been fading as of late. And in this one, they go a combined 4 innings, giving up 3 runs, all of which were earned for Kiwoom. Bullpen was solid. They wind up giving up 1 run over the course of 3 innings. And Wontae Cha said, "Cha-cha-cha, Joe, quality start." He winds up giving up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. It's been pretty solid with a 4.08 ERA. Now he's a 3-3 record, and has done a very solid job of not being able to walk guys, as in this one, he wound up issuing 2 walks as well. So that is what we all noticed in the NPB and the KBO from Tuesday morning. Now let's check in with our good buddy William Boor to see where things are at with regards to negotiations for an MLB season, and just what the heck is going to be going on if we wind up getting this 60-game MLB season. That is on the other side, right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Craig Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Craig Peterson. It is a pleasure to be joined by our next guest. This man does a great job as a reporter for MLB.com. He is also involved in the minor league system a lot with MLB Pipeline, taking a look at the up-and-coming prospects. He is based out there in the state of Arizona, and you can follow him on Twitter at WBoor. That is WBOOR, as it is William Boor joining me on the podcast. And it's always a pleasure to have you on, William. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, anytime. Always happy to join. How's it going?
I'm doing great, and it does seem like we're getting closer and closer on a deal with the MLB, but as we know, Tuesday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern was supposed to be the deadline for the players signing off on the deal that was thrown out there by the MLB owners and Rob Manfred to implement a season at 60 games. Obviously, that has not happened. It does seem as though these two sides have agreed on how things are going to be handled with regards to extra inning games, but as of right now, jury's still out as to whether or not we have a deal, whether or not we don't have a deal. It's just very confusing in my eyes right now.
It is very confusing. Everything I've heard from talking to people, everything I've read makes it seem like I don't expect any major hangups at this point. Well, I'm pretty sure they're going to agree to a 60-game season. What happens is, kind of going to be determined by the virus. But I think we're going to get this 60-game season, at least on paper. Spring training reportedly beginning July 1st. Obviously, it hasn't been a smooth road. It's not necessarily great where we're at. No one really wanted 60 games at the beginning. But I just think there's been so much negativity around the negotiations around the world, just everything going on. And I think right now, if you are a sports fan, you say, look, 60 games is better than nothing. Let's just try and enjoy what we have right now.
And right now, what is really being discussed is the health and safety between the MLB and the MLBPA. It sounds like more and more cases of COVID-19 have been found with so many of the staff members and the players surrounding these MLB organizations. And obviously, I do think that that's a big hang up at this point because, as we know, a lot of these teams train out there in the states of Arizona and Florida, and both have had big-time COVID-19 outbreaks. And right now, what I think is really going to possibly be the big derailer for a possible MLB season is the health and safety, COVID-19. And that's right now what they're discussing. And what I think has been just such a big disservice is that it feels like a lot of the major MLB reporters have been saying, oh, this is a slam dunk, that they're going to be able to agree upon all this. But it's so much more complex that I think a lot of people are leading on.
Yeah, it's really complex. In early March, or in, I guess, mid to late March, MLB sent out a 67-page operations manual that laid out a whole bunch of protocol about how to do social distancing in the dugout, what kind of things players would be allowed to do as far as working out and stuff like that. So that's kind of what they've gone back to. I mean, I'm sure they've been discussing it throughout, but that's really what they went back to, going back into MLB's statement Monday. The owners pretty much asked the players, like, hey, you got to respond by 5, which we know is passed. You've got to respond to say if A, you can be in camp by July 1st, and B, if we're all good on the health and safety protocols. They've had for about 2 months, they have had this working document. I got a copy of it in late March. I don't know how much it's changed since then, refined, rewritten certain parts or whatever, but they have had the document. And I think the reason it hasn't been discussed as much, I think, is because it wasn't as contentious. Like, both sides know they need to go through steps to keep everyone safe and everyone healthy. The money, the amount of games, there was obviously a ton of disagreement on. This stuff was more kind of like, yes, this needs to be done. There's no kind of contrarian side to this one. Like salaries, you can say, we deserve prorated. No, you don't, whatever, back and forth. This is like, we got to keep someone safe. I don't really know anyone arguing that's going to be like, yeah, let's put everyone in danger. So I think that's part of the reason that it hasn't been in the forefront. But you are right. Because of that, some people have kind of forgotten about it. And it's like, look, as exciting as it is that we've got this 60-game season, there are still some hurdles to climb.
Absolutely. As we do have William Boor joining me on the podcast. It's a great job as a reporter for the MLB and MLB.com. And I know that the date that they've been saying for everyone to check into training camp is July 1st. But as we know, a lot of these camps, they are being sanitized right now with regards to so many of these players winding up testing positive for COVID-19. Do you think there might be a little bit of a possibility that they might need to veer away from their normal places where they typically work out at, where they typically do their spring training? Because I do think that it is a little bit concerning that you did have that big outbreak with Clearwater. We're seeing with so many of these college campuses as well, like Clemson, Kansas State, all that good stuff. They had so many players wind up testing positive there as well. We know that the outbreaks are really hitting the states in which there is typically a lot of spring training very hard. So I do think that that's a little bit of an aspect of it as well. And as we know, travel right now is a little bit different than it was pre-COVID-19. So I do think that there might be a couple hangups trying to get all these guys into camp by July 1st.
Yeah, well, I know some teams, if not most or all, are going to do spring training at their home parks, not necessarily in Arizona or Florida. And the other thing is I've seen reports about staggered reporting dates for social distancing, and that's probably just a byproduct as well, like you said, of travel restrictions. and they're going to have staggered workout times to complete everything. If you're not doing exhibition games, which I would presume they're not, maybe just inter-squad scrimmages or stuff just because of travel and all that, then you can definitely do social distance workout. You have so many people coming in the morning, take batting practice and grounders. They leave, people do it in the people take batting practice in the afternoon, and so on and so forth. There's definitely ways to get it done, but obviously it's not as streamlined as normal, and it's still not 100% guaranteed to be effective or keep everyone healthy or anything like that. It's just a matter of doing what you can do and kind of making the best of a very unusual, atypical situation.
Atypical is the perfect word for this, William, because as we know, when spring training was shut down for most of these teams, it was right around, March 11th, March 12th, somewhere in that range. I remember these dates because that's when the NCAA tournament unfortunately got shut down in college basketball. So what you have is a lot of these guys have had as much of an off season or a lull as you typically have just with a typical end of season until spring training, which I think is so weird because typically your season, if you wind up not making the playoffs, it's done at the very end of September. If you do wind up making the playoffs, it's done at the end of October, and then you report to camp in February. So these guys have had over 3 months off. I've got to think that with the 3-week ramp-up time, not having your typical spring training games, it's going to be especially hard for these pitchers to be firing on all cylinders. And plus, something that I've noticed with regards to watching these NPB and KBO games is that these pitchers are coming out of the bullpen. Typically, they're obviously not MLB arms to begin with, but from the insiders I've been hearing in both of those leagues, these guys that are throwing in these leagues, they just seem to be a mile or two down with regards to their velocity. I think a lot of people attribute that to the lack of adrenaline with not having any fans in the stands.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's something I've heard as well, just from players and from being around the game. It's something I've noticed when you go in spring training or minor league games or whatever, just looking at the radar gun when someone's throwing a bullpen, it doesn't get to whatever that pitcher typically gets to in a regular outing. They're always a tick or two slower because of adrenaline and stuff like that. The other thing you mentioned as far as, people not having their normal lead up, they've had a whole bonus off season, and it hasn't even been a normal off season because players in typical off seasons, even if they don't play winter ball, they're working out, they're doing things. It's not like they come into spring training not having done anything for 3 months. In this case, obviously working out and doing stuff has been hard. So pitching is definitely going to be interesting probably throughout the year, especially early. I think you're going to have to look toward teams with strong bullpens because there's not going to be a lot of starters pitching into the 7th or 8th. Obviously, that was a trend that was kind of going away in baseball to begin with. And this is definitely going to amplify that. You're going to have a lot of maybe even 4-inning starts, especially that first week, probably 3-inning starts. It's definitely going to kind of change the game a little bit and be kind of interesting to watch to see what teams work around that and how they kind of manage their arms.
I'm right there with you as we do have William Boor joining me right here on the podcast. And then one other thing that I do think is worth noting with regards to what's going to happen for this upcoming season is just how rosters are going to be up in the air. Just because typically you've got a typical 40-man roster, you've got your minor leagues and everything like that. It's been hard enough to get a major league season up and running. I know you're a guy that you're really dialed in with regards to the minor league system. How do you think these things are going to be structured? Do you think that there's going to be sort of like a taxi squad? Do you think that they're going to maybe expand it to 50 players so that way some of these younger guys might be able to get a crack? Or how do you think that that's going to work? Because I am intrigued by that as well.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely been trying to keep an eye on and figure out because, one, inevitably someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get sick, but also just in general, you're going to need bodies because I talked about before, pitchers aren't going to be able to go as long. So you're going to have maybe an extra guy in the bullpen or something like that. I'd imagine they'd probably, keep 50 people, expand the 40-man roster and keep 50 people quarantined or ready to go at the facility or something like that. And maybe you can have 30 active. Maybe you have 50 ready and 30 active on a given day or something like that. I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work, but yeah, I think they'll do something along those lines to have extra bodies ready to go in case of anything, really. Yeah,
it's going to be the strangest season we've ever seen in history, William. It does sound like we're going to get it. Obviously, there's a lot of I's to be dotted, a lot of T's to be crossed, but I know that you're doing a great job of keeping up with all of it and so much more. So let the good people at home know where they're able to follow you on social media and just what you're watching for in general, because I'm sure that this has been a couple of the strangest months of your life, and it just continues day after day after day.
Yeah, it's bizarre. What I'm watching for is, I guess, the same thing as everyone else, just trying to figure out what's happening, how it's happening. Last night, it was kind of exciting to find out that we were getting 60 games. Now with all the health stuff, it's kind of like, okay, but are we actually going to get them? So now I'm kind of crossing my fingers and hoping that I got to watch crappy Twitter video of someone taking batting practice on July 1st. From there, I guess we take it day by day to try and get to a late July opening day and, really get to some sort of normal baseball schedule. And then as far as the social media, you just follow me on Twitter and or Instagram, both the same handle, WBoor, WBOOR.
William does a great job of keeping up with all of this. He's also very good at looking at a lot of the up-and-coming players as well. So big thanks to William Boor for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast which I give you a side and total on every game on both the KBO and NPB board as we touch them all.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
All right, and we are back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Big thanks to William Boor for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast, which I give you a side and total on every game for Wednesday morning, not today's, but Wednesday morning's KBO and NPB betting board as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Normal disclaimer here, aside from really at Pinnacle, when it comes to these foreign leagues, you're really betting on the team and the team only. So let's say that you're taking a look at the Hiroshima Carp and the Yomiuri Giants. You think that you're going to get Christopher Mercedes going for the Yomiuri Giants, and instead you get Christopher from State Farm. Well, you're stuck with Christopher from State Farm, unfortunately, so always want to throw that in there. Really, other than Pinnacle, you're betting on the team and the team only, unlike in Major League Baseball where you're able to go pitcher dependent. And we're going to be starting with the NPB, just because, for one, they've got the smaller numbers when it comes to the betting board, and two, those games start at 2 a.m. Pacific, 5 a.m. Eastern, and then when you take a look at the KBO, they start 30 minutes later at 5:30 a.m. Eastern, so that's the way that we're going to structure it. And we begin with 304, 161, 304, 162. The Nippon Ham Fighters are going to be hitting the road, and they're facing off against the Rakuten Eagles. If you're taking a look at the Eagles, you're going to be laying it here. At most places, you're going to be finding this at minus 150. You are going to be able to find a little bit more if you're looking at a couple offshore books. I've seen this as high as 165 so far today, but it's really settling in at minus 150. If you're looking at the Ham Fighters, you're going to get anywhere between plus 130 and plus 132. Your total on this game is 8.5, over juice of minus 105, and the under is minus 115. Your pitching matchup for this one, going for the Ham Fighters, it is Rasa Kawano. Meanwhile, Ateki Wakui is going to be going for the Rakuten Eagles, and when you take a look at Kawano, this is sight unseen right here, because I was doing my research on this pitcher. He has never pitched in an NPB game, so needless to say, if you're looking to bet on him and you're looking for any sort of a track record, you are going up a creek without a rowing utensil. So I do think that that is sort of hilarious. And then when you're taking a look at Mr. Hideki, this is someone that has been a little bit hit or miss when it comes to his NPB career. He is someone that is certainly not going to get you a whole bunch of swings and misses, but what I will say about him is that he certainly does pitch to contact, and he doesn't walk too many guys. During the 2019 campaign, 2.2 walks per 9 innings. But the big issue for him was the fact that he wound up having an ERA north of a 4.5. His 4-10 record certainly was not good. So you've got one sight unseen pitcher, and you've got one guy that, let's face it, he has not necessarily been dominant in his career. But when you take a look at Chiba Lotte, this is a team that has quite a bit of firepower in their lineup. I do like the fact that they've done a very good job of just being able to have a lot of natural talent coming in from Japan. They have done a solid job of trying to lure in some foreign-born players, but a lot of these guys are more along the pitching staff, so I do find that to be a little bit fascinating. And then when you take a look at the other side with the Ham Fighters, this is a bunch that they have one of the lesser bullpens that you're going to find out there, and they wound up getting taxed a little bit yesterday. They were unable to get really that quality start that they were looking for. What I think is going to be very fascinating to find with the Ham Fighters is whether or not they're going to be able to get more runs up on the board this season, as they only averaged right around 3.9 runs per game last season. That certainly was not good. 93 home runs last season certainly was a little bit of an outcry. Now, I will say this, Tayashi Ota is someone that you do want to take a look at. He wound up having 20 home runs last year. He's a guy that's able to hit right around 300, so that's pretty rock solid. But even though this is a team that they don't have a lot of long bomb power, they really don't have a lot of guys that hit for average either. These are probably the two teams that have the less reliance on foreign-born players that you're going to find out there in this league. But what I do think is fascinating is the fact that you've got such a bad pitching matchup, to say the least. I do think that the Eagles are going to be able to take advantage. When you take a look at what the Rakuten Eagles were able to do during the 2019 campaign, this is a bunch that did have a very rock-solid bullpen. They wound up giving up 4.04 runs per game during the 2019 campaign. They're off to a very good start so far this year, as the Eagles are coming into this game with a record of 3-1. They've been able to hold down most of their opponents to 3 runs or fewer. I do think that this is a spot in which the Ham Fighters are going to have to go into their bullpen. I think that they're not going to necessarily be very successful with it. I don't think that the Ham Fighters are really going to be able to get their power going. I think that in this game, the young starter in Kuwano is just going to be the victim of death by a million cuts. So for that reason, we're going to be laying it here with the Eagles, and we are going to be taking this total over as well. We move on to 304-163, 304-164. The Tokyo Yakult Swallows are going to be playing those the Hanshin Tigers. If you're taking a look at the Tigers, you're going to be getting a little bit of lesser juice here. You're not really going to be getting a plus price, but as far as I'm seeing it with the Tigers, you're going to be getting anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. And what that means for the other side is that if you're taking a look at our good buddies, the Swallows, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. Your total on this game is 9, with the over having juice of even and the under being at minus 120. Pitching matchup for this one, Albert Suarez is going to be going for the Yakult Swallows, and Joe Gunkel is going to be going for the Hanshin Tigers. And with Uncle, this guy is actually halfway decent. I will say that Joe Gunkel wound up being a little bit banged up for the 2019 campaign, so it is going to be a little bit of a mystery as to what you're going to be able to get out of him. But this is someone that throughout his minor league career, because a lot of people say that this is much like the AAA level, he was 17-14. Now, he pitched in the PCL, which you guys know is just a juice ball league. It is absolutely insane. And he had a 3.77 ERA at a normal AAA league that's more like 3. So I actually do think that's a little bit of a redeeming quality with that regard when he wound up pitching between AA and AAA during the 2019 campaign, a combined 9-2 record. So that is very good. He was out there with the Miami Marlins organization for that campaign. And then when you're taking a look at one Albert Suarez, this is someone that had a very nice little cup of coffee when he was out there with the San Francisco Giants during the 2016 and 17 seasons. And I will say he wasn't necessarily terrible. I had a lifetime ERA in the MLB right around a 5-ish. He wound up pitching for the Yakult Swallows during the 2019 season. He just really didn't have a whole lot of consistency, as during the 2019 campaign he wound up only starting 8 games, 2-3 record, but the ERA was good, 2.51 ERA, so that's a little bit misleading. This is someone that does a solid job of being able to keep the ball in the yard as long as he's been out there in Japan. 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, has never been really one that issues a lot of walks. Taking a look at both the MLB and the minors, never gave out really more than 3 walks per 9 innings, so I do think that that's a little bit of a redeeming quality. When you take a look at the Yakult Swallows, you've got Nori, don't call me Steve Aoki. This is one of the better bats that you're going to find out there in this league. I do think that he has a lot of promise, that he should be able to help out the Yakult Swallows. And then when you're taking a look at the Swallows as well, what I think is really big for this team is the fact that they've got a bullpen that I think is going to be very capable. They wound up having to be used a little bit with Gabriel Yanoa not being able to give the team a very good start Tuesday morning, but I do think that they are not going to be used very much. And when you just take a look at the other side, I don't have a lot of faith that there's going to be a whole lot of runs being put up by the Hanshin Tigers. With the Tigers, they've got Kosuke Fukudome, who all of a sudden is 43 years old. I mean, this guy is just absolutely bleeping ancient. I cannot believe that he is still getting a paycheck to play baseball, but what a world we live in right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is a team that they do a very good job of just being able to find guys that are able to get on base, and I think that Jeffrey Marte is really going to be able to make a difference for this team. He was able to go deep off of Yanoa yesterday with the Yakult Swallows. Like I mentioned, they are a little bit less deep with regards to the bullpen, and I do think that Justin Boor is a big addition to the team because I just mentioned how few home runs they were able to get last season. He is a guy that is a professional hitter. We remember the season that he had with the Miami Marlins a couple years ago in which he was going deep left and right. I think that he had 2 straight years in which he was able to hit 19 plus home runs while he was with Miami, so this is someone that certainly does have a lot of power, and he should be able to tear it up out there in the NPB. And when you take a look at this team in general, they do have a lot of guys that I wind up trusting from a bullpen standpoint. So I do think that in the end, the Tigers are going to get the job done. I think that both these starters are going to be very solid, but in the end, Tigers just have a little bit more with the bullpen. I think that their revamped lineup is going to help them out. So we're taking the plus price here with the Tigers, and we're going to be taking this total under. We move on to game number 304, 165, 304, 166. The Chibalote Marines are going to be playing against the Oryx Buffaloes. If you're taking a look at the Buffaloes, well, nobody circles the wagons like them, and nobody gives you a plus price like them as well. You're going to be finding the Buffaloes anywhere between a plus 110 and a plus 115. Meanwhile, with the Marines, anywhere between minus 130 and minus 135. Your total on this game, it is 8. And the over is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. The under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. Your starting pitching matchup for this one, going for the Buffaloes, it is going to be Kawagi Suzuki. Meanwhile, it is Kyuza Ujima who's going to be going for the Marines. And Ujima is someone that it was actually pretty solid for this team last year. He's not a guy that is necessarily going to be lighting up the radar gun, but what I like about Ujima is that he is still a little bit of a developmental guy. He is now 23 years old, and he was 7-7 in his first full year at the NPB, 2.86 ERA, and he did a very good job of keeping the ball in the yard. He wound up giving up just 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, good deceptive off-speed stuff with 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's one of the best that you're going to find out there in the NPB. So you've got a lot to like there. And then when you take a look at the flip side for Mr. Suzuki, this is someone that is a part of an Oryx Buffaloes team that we saw it on display Tuesday morning. The bullpen, not good. That's putting it very, very politely. And then when you take a look at the Oryx Buffaloes, they are a team that they certainly have revamped their lineup. You've obviously got a guy in Adam Jones that's able to take it deep. And then with Suzuki, the big question is he going to be able to keep this game out in front of him? He had a 4-6 record during the 2019 campaign, 4.31 ERA, and his big kryptonite was the fact that he gave up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. So that is not very good. And then you pair that up with the fact that he gives out 4.3 walks per 9 innings. This is someone that certainly is struggling a little bit. He's now coming into his third year in the NPB at age 26, but I just fear that this is someone that is not necessarily going to be able to get the job done with this regard. I do have a lot of trepidations with them. I do think that the Buffaloes have a good chance of being able to put up some runs, though. I do like the way that they have been able to just be able to get some solid hitting in general. We saw that on display after they got down 3-0 Tuesday morning. They were able to claw their way back. They've got a good combination of power and also just batting average in general, but I think in the end, the Buffaloes are going to be let down by their bullpen, and I think that the Marines are going to be able to have a little bit of a better display with that regard. So for that reason, we're going to be laying it with the Marines, and we're going to be taking this total over. We move on to game number 304, 167, 304, 168. You've got the Cebu Lions, and they are going to be playing us to the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. If you're looking at the SoftBank Hawks, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 108 and minus 110. With the Lions, you're pretty much finding them minus 110 across the board. Your total on this game is 9. With the 9, you're finding the over juice anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. Unders anywhere between minus 105 and even. Your pitching matchup for this one, it is going to be Shitu Ishikawa going for the SoftBank Hawks. Meanwhile, Tayasu Imai is going to be taking the mound for the Cebu Lions. With Mr. Ishikawa, he is a little bit of a unproven commodity, pitching a grand total of 4 games during the 2019 campaign, and he won a grand total of 5 innings in that campaign. Now, I will say that during the 2018 season, he was absolutely terrific for this team. He was 26 years old at the time, went 13-6. I will say this, though. He was sort of like a pseudo-opener. He was sort of a cross between a starter and a reliever because he went 42 innings. He went 127 and a third inning. So this is someone that he is not used to being a full-time starter, which I do think is very fascinating. During that campaign, he also wound up giving up 4 home runs and 3 walks per 9 innings, and he's never really been a good punch-out guy. So I do have a couple trepidations there, but what you also know with the SoftBank Hawks is that this is a team that they are going to be built around their bullpen. They wound up giving it up Tuesday morning. I do think that they are saving a couple more of their more trustworthy arms for this game because they saw Matt Moore just getting completely lit up, and I could tell that they were trotting out there some of the lesser guys that they typically put on the roster. And then if you're taking a look at the Cebu Lions, this is actually the team that won the Pacific League during the 2019 season. This is one of the powers that you're going to find out there in the country of Japan, but this is a pitching matchup with a May going that might not be good for them. 4.32 ERA, 7-9 total record. This is someone that during the 2019 campaign wound up giving up 4.8 walks per 9 innings, a little bit over a home run per 9 innings. Not really much of a punch-out guy, 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, so I certainly do have my issues with him. He is a very young guy at age 22. He's been in the NPB for a few seasons, and then when you're taking a look at both of these lineups, you certainly have some redeeming qualities with both of them. With the SoftBank Hawks, what you've really got to love is the fact that Wilmer Ballentine is going to be hopefully able to find a little bit of something for this team. We all remember him with his time with the Seattle Mariners for many years. He's actually spent quite a few years now with the Yakult Swallows. He wound up coming over, I think it was all the way back in 2011. He has really made his home here in the NPB, and his career batting average in the NPB right around at 275. He has about 25 home runs per campaign. He's obviously got some good speed, so he's able to be a cog that this team is able to build around. But then when you take a look at the other side as well, you've got some very solid hitters when you come to the Cebu Lions. We saw Corey Spangenberg be able to hit a grand slam for the team yesterday. He's really their only foreign-born position player, and what you also have for this team is you've got a bunch of stars that are really in the making, a couple guys that I think might be up for possibly going to the MLB in a few years. And the guy that I really take a look at, Shuta Tonosaki. This is someone that wound up during the 2019 campaign, hitting a 275, 26 home runs, 90 RBI, right around 22 steals as well. Does a good job of getting on base, 353 on base. So all in all, this guy is the total package. I really like what he's able to bring to the table. And then Takayami Kuriyama, hopefully I said that one correctly. He has been a stalwart in this league. He is now 36 years old, but you take a look at what he was able to do for this team last year, right around a 333 on base. He does a very good job of just being able to find a way on, so I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a higher scoring game. I really don't have a lot of faith in either of these starters, but what I do have a lot of faith in is the SoftBank relievers, because I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a bullpen game for them, and I do think that they're going to be able to get the job done. I think that they're going to be able to hold down Cebu in this one, so for that reason, we are going to wind up taking this total under, and we are going to wind up taking the Hawks in this spot. We are going to be moving on to game number 304, 169, 304, 170. You've got the Chinichurri Dragons, and they are going to be hitting the road to face off against the Yokohama Bay Stars. Bay, they are finding themselves a favorite, as for Chinichurri, you're going to be finding them anywhere between even money and plus 105. If you're taking a look at the Bay Stars, you're going to be laying it here anywhere between minus 120 and minus 125. Your total on this game, it is 8.5. Over is juice anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The under is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. Your pitching matchup for this one, going for the Bay Stars, it is going to be Shinichi Inu, and it is going to be Takayami Yamamoto going for the Chinichurri Dragons. And Mr. Yamamoto is someone that is actually very good, and I think that this is a little bit of a sneaky matchup here, because with the Yokohama Bay Stars, they have had some very good pitching throughout the year, but what I think the big question is whether or not these offense are going to be able to be ignited, because when you take a look at the Bay Stars and what they were able to do during the 2019 season, it was really their foreign-born player in Jose Lopez who was able to hit 31 home runs for them, and then you've got Natali Soto. It's going to be very fascinating to see what he's going to be able to do during this 2020 campaign. He got off to a little bit of a rocky start for the team, but during the 2019 campaign, 43 home runs. He wound up hitting at 270. He was able to tear it up, and for the Yokohama Bay Stars so far this year, they haven't necessarily had as much of that power. And then when you're taking a look at the flip side and what you're able to get out of the Chinichurri Dragons, I think that this is a team that has been underachieving a little bit so far this year. They're coming in with a record of 2-2, but I do feel like they had a couple opportunities that were left out there by the wayside. They've had some pretty solid pitching, but they just weren't able to cash in, because this is a team that, from a hitting standpoint, just should have more runs up on the board than than they've had, because this is a team that, as a collective, is hitting a little bit above a 300, but they had 0 runs to show for it, even though they got 11 hits yesterday. Needless to say, I do find that to be very fascinating, and the big reason why, 2 home runs over the course of 4 games so far this year. The guy that I think is very interesting for this team is Dayan Viciedo. Hopefully I said that one correctly. He used to be in the White Sox organization. I can guarantee you that I butchered that name, but at the very least, we gave it a little bit of an attempt. He wound up having 43 doubles and 18 home runs to go along with 93 RBI for this team last year. 315 hitter, does a great job of being able to get on base. This is certainly a bunch that they don't necessarily form their offense around a whole lot of long balls, but you got to think that the bullpen is going to need to be a little bit better for this team, as they have so far been able to do a solid job. I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a fascinating spot, though, because I do think that the Bay Stars are not necessarily going to be getting the start that they desire out of Mr. Eno. When you take a look at what he did during the 2019 season, he had a 4-5 record to go with a 4.76 ERA, and what's even more concerning than all that, 3.6 walks per 9 innings, go with 6.4 punch-outs. So this is someone that he's not necessarily going to blow it by guys. He is not going to get a whole lot of swings and misses either, so that is something that is not necessarily a good combination. And then when you're taking a look at the other side for the Dragons, what I think is very fascinating with their starter is that he's actually pretty darn solid. I do like what he was able to do during the 2019 season, as Mr. Yamamoto is now just 20 years old, but as a 19-year-old, he wound up going 3-3 in 9 starts. This is someone that does a good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard. 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Control has been lacking a little bit, but his fastball, you got to think, is getting up there a little bit more. I think that this is going to be a spot in which Yamamoto doesn't necessarily have the world's greatest start, but I do think that he's going to do just enough to be able to get the job done, and I do think that both these teams are going to get 5+. So for that reason, we're going to be taking this total over, and we are going to be taking the Dragons, and this is the last game when it comes to the NPB, as it is the Hiroshima Carp, and they are going to be hitting the road to face off against the Yomiuri Giants. This is game number 304, 171, 304, 172. The Carp are finding themselves anywhere between +125 and +130. The Giants anywhere between -145 and -150. And your total on this game, it is 8.5. With the 8.5, the over is juice of -115, and the under is -105. Your pitching matchup for this one, it is going to be Christopher Mercedes going for Yomiuri, and it's going to be Aaron Curry who is going to be taking the bump for the Carp. And what I think is very fascinating is that you've got sort of a Fossil Carmona situation going on with our starter, as Christopher Mercedes actually was known by a little bit of a different name. He was going by Christopher Cristomo last season, so I have no idea what caused the name change or anything like that, but we'll just call him Christopher for the sake of this podcast. Last year he went 8-8 with a 3.06 ERA, so he was very solid with that regard. And what I like about this guy as well is that he only gives out 2 walks and 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. He does a great job of keeping the game out in front of him. He's not a guy that is necessarily going to be lighting up the radar gun or anything like that, but he does just enough to be able to keep the game out in front of him, which is obviously a very redeeming quality. And with the Yomiuri Giants, as we know, they've got one of the better offenses that you're going to find out there in this league. Gerardo Parra was able to have 3 RBI in the team's game Sunday morning. He is going to be one of the better players that you're going to find out there in this league. But then when you take a look at the competition, I do think that it is going to be a little bit tough for them to be able to get some hits, because with the Hiroshima Carp, they were actually able to get a little bit of something during the 2019 campaign out of the guy that's going in Aaron Curry. 8-8 record, 3.51 ERA. I think that those numbers are a little bit deceiving, as he wound up giving up just 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, 7.5 strikeouts per 9. So this is someone that's a very capable arm. It does feel like he's starting to come into his own a little bit. And then when you take a look at the Carp, this is certainly a team that is a little bit all or nothing. Watching them during the preseason, they were either giving up 5+ runs in every single game, or they were scoring them themselves. So I do think that that is something that you certainly do need to take a look at. But I do think that the Carp are going to be able to get a little bit of something going. And they always say that you have your ugly underdog picks. Well, is there anything uglier than an ugly fish pick? I mean, I've never heard it, because I come from Wisconsin. I've never heard anyone, when it comes to a fish fry, fishing, anything like that, say, "Oh boy, Carp." It's just something I've never heard in my life. But Jose Perella is someone that I think is going to be able to get it going. This is someone that is hitting above a 300 for the year. Alex Mejia has been off to a little bit of a rough start, but I think that he's going to be able to get things popping as well. You take a look at what Mejia was able to do during the 2019 campaign, as he was playing in AAA Monclova, and he was also playing out there in the Mexican Winter League as well. He wound up hitting a 333. I like him a little bit to Jose Miguel Fernandez out there in the KBO, in that he's not necessarily going to give you a whole bunch of power. He's not going to steal a whole bunch of bases, but he's just a professional hitter. I do like this spot here for the Carp. I do think that the bullpen is going to be able to hold it down. They weren't too heavily taxed yesterday, and I do think that this is a spot in which the Yomiuri Giants are going to be held down a little bit. So we're going to be taking the plus price here with the Carp, getting a little bit of fish in our betting diet, and we're going to be taking this total under. Now we go to the KBO, and KBO picks are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order as per usual as well, and this is going to be starting with 304, 671, 304, 672. The SK Wyverns are going to be playing host to the Doosan Bears. The Bears are finding themselves a pretty significant favorite right now. If you're going to be taking a look at the Bears, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 148 and minus 155. Meanwhile, with the Burns, you're going to be getting anywhere between plus 128 and plus 135. Your total on this game, it is 10. The over and under are both at minus 110. Your pitching matchup for this one, it is going to be Yu Kwan Yu, who's going to be going for the Doosan Bears. Meanwhile, Jung-Woo Park is going to be on the bump for the Wyverns, and I believe that Park is the guy whose nickname is Subby for the SK Wyverns, and this is someone that does a good job of being able to not allow hard contact. He has given up 4 home runs so far this year over the course of 45 innings. What is a little bit concerning, though, is that sometimes the command can be a little bit lackadaisical. He's given up at least 3 walks in each out of his last 4 starts, and we know this with the Doosan Bears. Middle of the lineup, absolutely hot. They had a combined 8 hits between hitters 2 through 4 in the team's game Tuesday morning. Jose Miguel Fernandez hitting above a 350 for this team. Jae-Kwon Kim has been doing a solid job as well. And then when you take a look at the pitcher that is going to be going for Doosan, he's got one of the nastiest curveballs that you're going to find out there in the KBO. And because he does rely upon that curveball so much, he can be a little bit inconsistent. I will say that. 3+ runs given up in 3 out of his last 4 games, but we also know this with Doosan. They've been one of the better bullpens out there in the KBO the last week and a half, so I do think that that's a very redeeming quality for this team. When you take a look at the Wyverns, this is just a team that's not hitting in general. I will say that Jamie Roback and Jung Cha, 2 guys that were in the top 5 in the KBO in home runs last season, they've got a combined 12 so far this year. I will say this for them, both guys have an on-base right around 400, but both these guys are also hitting right around a 250 as well, so obviously that's going to be a little bit of an issue. And for the Wyverns, you just need someone to step up for this team as well. You have Ju-Yun Cha. He's hitting a little bit above a 300, but right around 2.5 weeks ago, he was hitting closer to about a 400. He's went a little bit cold, and then you've just got a bunch of guys that are towards about a lineup. They're not hitting, and with Doosan, they're a little bit banged up in the lineup as well. So we're going to wind up taking this total under, and we're going to be laying it with the Doosan Bears. We move on to 304, 673, 304, 674. The KT Wiz, better known as the Smiling Blobs, are going to be playing host the NC Dinos. With the NC Dinos, here's a shocker. They're a favorite in this one. They're laying anywhere between minus 160 and minus 170. Blobs are anywhere between plus 140 and plus 150, and your total on this game, it is 10.5. Over is juice of minus 120. The under is even. Your pitching matchup for this one, going for the NC Dinos, it is going to be Mr. Michael Wright, and you've got Min-Soo Kim, who's going to be taking the bump for the Blobs. And with Kim, you can't be expecting a whole lot of length. He began the year out there in the bullpen. He is now making his 4th start of the campaign. Here's how his first 3 starts went. 3 1/3 innings, gave up 3 runs. 5 innings, he gave up 3 runs. And by some sort of sorcery against the SK Wyverns, he went 5 innings, and he wound up giving up 1 run. This is someone that has been doing a solid job of being able to get some swings and misses so far this year, but I will say this. 20 1/3 innings, he's given up 36 hits. And now he has to face a Dinos lineup that is the best out there in the KBO when it comes to being able to have just so much depth in their lineup 1 through 9. They've got everyone hitting right now. Sukman Park, Yuji Yang wound up going yard for the team yesterday. Sungbum Na, double-digit amount of home runs. He's in the top 5 in the KBO when it comes to RBI. And the Smiling Blobs have a bullpen ERA that is north of 7. I mean, you're just looking for anything here. And with Mike Wright, he has been a little bit more shaky in his last couple starts. He's given up 3+ earned runs in now 3 out of his last 5 starts, and he's given up a couple more home runs, and the walks have really been an issue as well. He's issued at least 3 walks in 2 out of his last 3 starts, and the strikeout numbers are down a little bit, but I will say this. This is a NC Dinos team that they really didn't need to go into the bullpen too much Tuesday morning because Drew Racinski was able to give them a good start, so they've got more of their trustworthy arms on staff in this one. And for the Smiling Blobs, you do have a pair of guys that are really able to take you deep. How about what they are able to get out of Juan Mel Rojas? He's right now in the KBO lead for home runs, hitting a 385, 14 home runs, 40 RBI. Beko Kong, how about 10 home runs despite the fact that he wound up missing like 2.5 weeks? And then Jung Dae Bae, he's hitting a 350 so far this this year. I really like what he's able to bring to the table, but I do think that this is a spot in which the Blobs might be in danger of giving up double digits to the NC Dinos. I mean, when you've got Aaron Altair hitting in the 8th spot and in the top 10 in the KBO with regards to RBI and home runs, you know how dangerous this lineup is. We are going to wind up taking this total over, and I'm going to be looking at the run line here with the NC Dinos. If you're looking at a Dinos run line, I'm seeing it currently at circa at minus 112. That's obviously a pretty solid price. Most other places, I'm seeing it at minus 115, but I think it's of a solid value regardless. 304, 675, 304, 676. The Giants of Lotte are going to be playing those to the Kia Tigers. Kia Tigers are finding themselves a pretty hefty underdog in this one. You're going to be finding them anywhere between plus 145 and plus 155. With Lotte, you're laying anywhere between minus 165 and minus 175. Your total on this game is 8.5 to 9. On the 8.5, juice on the over is even, and the under is minus 120. If you're looking at over 9, you're going to get plus 105, and if you're looking at under 9, that is going to be minus 125. Pitching matchup on this one, you've got action Dan Straley going for Lotte, and it is going to be Minwoo Lee who's going to be taking the bump for Kia. And don't look at Minwoo Lee as chopped liver. This is someone that has actually done a very good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard. 3 home runs given up in 45 and 2/3 innings. He's been a little bit unlucky. He's not a guy that's going to give out a lot of walks either. 15 walks in 45 and 2/3 innings, but he just wound up running into some of these teams at just the absolute worst time. On the road against KT, on the road against Tucson, against NC, against LG. Those are his last 4 matchups, and in 2 of them, he gave up 3 runs or fewer. So I do give him a little bit of credit there. He's been the victim of giving up unearned runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts as well. So I certainly do think that that is something that is playing into it. And with Lotte, this is a team that they're not necessarily going to take you deep. Deo Lee, Asup, Sun, these are guys that do a very good job of being able to get on base, but they don't have the home runs that they once had. You also take a look at so many of the other guys, like a Dixon Machado, who's really gotten hot. He's out hitting right around at 280. Not necessarily a power guy as well. And with the Kia Tigers, Preston Tucker, you don't know what you're going to get out of him from game to game. He wound up having no hits Tuesday morning. You got to think that he's due for a little bit of a bounce back. He's one of the best players in the KBO when it comes to being able to get RBI. And what else is big for the Kia Tigers is that some of their ageless wonders have been able to step up as well. As you got Wan Na along with Hungwoo Cha. Both these guys are hitting for like a combined 300. They're both 35 plus years old, and both of these guys have provided between 6 and 7 home runs and a combined 51 RBI. So they certainly have been able to do the job there. And then they've got one of the best leadoff hitters that you're going to find out there in the KBO as well, in Ho-Rung Kim. This is someone that is hitting a 328 ever since he came back right around 3.5 weeks ago. And you got to think that the Kia bullpen going to be a little bit better in this one than they were against Lotte Tuesday morning, as they wound up giving up 4 runs over the course of 2 innings. And for Lotte, this is a team that certainly has had a solid bullpen, but I will say that Dan Straley, whatever can go wrong from will go wrong. He's got a 2.10 ERA, 55 and a third innings. This is someone whose K to walk rate is pretty much a 4-1. He's been absolutely spectacular with that regard. 62 strikeouts so far this year. And yet to show for it, you know what his record is. He's got a grand total of 1 win and 2 losses. I mean, you really got a feel for the guys so far this year. I just think that this is a spot in which Kia is going to be able to get a couple runs up on the board. I think it's going to be lower scoring, but because Minwoo Lee does a great job of being able to not allow a lot of hard contact, it's going to keep Kia in the game. I think that they're going to be able to find a way to pull out a very low scoring game. So we're going to take the plus price here with Kia, and we're going to be taking this total under. We move on to 304, 677, 304, 678. LG Twins are going to be playing us to the Heroes of Kiwoom. If you're taking a look at Kiwoom, you're going to be getting a plus price here, anywhere between plus 130 and plus 125. Meanwhile, with the LG Twins, going to be laying anywhere between minus 145 and minus 150. Your total on this game, it is 9.5. On the 9.5, over is juice anywhere between even and plus 105. Under is anywhere between minus 120 and minus 125. Going on the bump for the LG Twins, you've got Tyler Wilson. Meanwhile, it is going to be Sungwoo Lee who's going to be going for Kiwoom. And for Lee, this is a guy that has really been better in his last couple starts. In these first couple starts of the season, he was getting rocked like a hurricane, but 3 earned runs or fewer given up in each out of his last 3 starts, and a combined 3 earned runs given up in his last 18 innings of work. So that is a redeeming quality. This is not a guy that gets swings and misses, though. He's had more than 4 strikeouts in 1 start so far this year. Needless to say, that's a little bit putrid. He's been doing a better job with the walks, though. He combined 2 walks in his last 2 starts. This after he had 5 walks, and by some form of sorcery, got out of Dodge against LG by giving up only 3 runs in the process. This is someone that's 21 years old, so he's trying to come into form. We do know this with Kiwoom. They do a very good job with regards to their bullpen, but they did wind up having to use a couple of their bullpen pieces yesterday as well. And with LG, this is a team that they had the best bullpen ERA in the KBO going into last week, but they really have been showing their warts. And with Tyler Wilson, you just don't know what you're going to get out of this guy from game to game. Over his last 3 starts, he's given up 2 runs, and 3 runs. Prior to that, he gave up 4, and then 0, and then 3, and then 2. I mean, he's been zigzagging all over the place. And what I think is big for Tyler Wilson is the fact that he doesn't get a bunch of punch-outs. 35 strikeouts over the course of 47 and a third innings. That's fewer than you're typically going to find for a 4-more player. He has only given out 15 walks, but with Ki-Woom as well, Byung-Ho Park being able to get 2 home runs was big. He led the KBO in home runs last year, and you've also got someone that is really emerging with regards to perhaps being up for the MVP award as well in Jung-Ho Lee. He has been absolutely magnificent. How about a 388 batting average, 457 on base? So far this year, he's got 7 home runs, 30 RBI. He has really been getting cooking. We saw Ha-Sung Kim be able to get a couple hits yesterday. He's hitting at 272 for the year, 9 home runs. Dong-Won Park wound up going deep. He at the catcher spot is sitting at 300, 9 home runs, 30 RBI. You've got a bunch of fearsome bats. And then for LG, we all know what Mr. Roberto Ramos is able to do, 13 home runs over 30 RBI. He has been a little bit colder with the bat ever since having his injury that kept him out for quite a bit of last week, but by and large, he certainly has been able to get the job done. And then when you take a look at the LG Twins as well, you're able to get a lot of production out of the middle of the lineup. Youngtek Park, the 41-year-old, is sitting at 317. Ji-Won-Oh has really been out with the bat. He's hitting a 267 on the campaign. He's got a hit in each of the team's last 9 games, so I really give him a lot of credit. And this is a guy that in a 6-game stretch had multiple hits in 4 of them going into last week, so I do like what he's able to provide to this team. I do think that we're going to see a little bit more of an over game. I think that Ki-Woom is going to have to go a little bit further into their bullpen than they like, and with the LG Twins, I think that they get a decent start out of Tyler Wilson. I think that this is going to be another classic 6 innings, gives up 3 runs, and I do think that the Twins are going to give up an additional run out of the bullpen, but I just think that this is a starting pitching matchup that really does lend itself to LG in the spot, and I do think that Ramos, with him not having home runs in quite a few of the games ever since he's come off the injured list, he is due for a little bit of a emergence. I think that Lee is going to get lit up after a couple good starts after he began the year just absolutely putrid. So we're going to be taking this total over, and we're going to be laying it here with the LG Twins, and we wrap things up with the free space on your KBO betting board. 304, 679, 304, 680. The free space has been fading the Hanwha Eagles as they are right now finding themselves as an underdog. Where else would they be finding themselves as? Eagles are finding themselves anywhere between plus 155 and plus 160 dogs. Meanwhile, with the Lions of Samsung, they are anywhere between minus 175 and minus 180. Your total on this game, it is 10.5. On the 10.5, over juice of minus 120, and the under is even. Your pitching matchup on this one is going to be Shi Won Jong going for the Hanwha Eagles, and Yondong Ho is going to be going for the Samsung Lions. And with Mr. Ho, this is the guy that was on ESPN a few weeks ago going up against the Lotte Giants, and he was just getting out of bases loaded jams after bases loaded jams. Gotta think that this is someone that's probably going to be providing right around 5 innings. That's what he's went in his first 3 starts. He does a solid job of keeping the game out in front of him. He is someone that he might lend himself to a little bit of hard contact, but when you take a look at the NY Eagles, you don't have a single guy in the roster that's hit more than 4 home runs so far this year. I actually think that this is a perfect matchup for him. And then when you take a look at Zhang, he's been doing a little bit better for Hanwha. 6.89 ERA, no doubt it is not good to say the least, but he's given up, I can't believe we're having to use this metric, 4 runs or fewer in all but one of his starts so far this year. But once again, not going to get a lot of length out of him. He's went north of 5 innings just twice so far this year, and that was in his first 2 starts of the year. So this is someone that he's probably going to give you right around 4 or 5 innings. The Hanwha Eagles are probably going to need to use quite a few bullpen arms, and you can tell that they use a lot of their less than trusty bullpen arms when they wound up getting blown out in that game yesterday as Samsung put up a touchdown in the 6th inning. I will say this, with Samsung, they did wind up having Tyler Saladino leave the game yesterday. That is something that you want to monitor. That could hurt them, but you do have a couple guys that are starting to emerge. Hakju Lee has been very hot over the last week and a half. This is a guy that has been hitting above a 400. He's now hitting a 268 on the campaign. I absolutely love his emergence. And then what else you have to like is the fact that Won-Suk Lee has 30 RBI for this team so far this year. Not necessarily a long ball hitter, but he's certainly able to drive him in. And then you also have a Jawu Ku, who has been absolutely terrific. Only 4 home runs for him, but hitting a 315. You've got a bunch of guys that they don't necessarily have a ton of power, but they just have a bunch of good average with the Lions. They now have the top bullpen ERA out there in the KBO. And then with Hanwha, This is a team that they wound up releasing their foreign-born player in Jared Hoying because he just was not cutting it with the Eagles in general. It has been a long slog for the team. They seem to be finding a little bit of something with regards to a few guys that are putting up a respectable batting average, and the bullpen at times is not awful. Like a Hawkman Joe has been one of the better finds for the team. He's hitting right now at 286, and then Tae-Kon Kim has been giving the team a little bit of something. I believe that he went deep yesterday for his second home run of the campaign, but you don't have a lot of power with this team. You got a bunch of guys that they're mediocre at best with the bat. I do think that the bullpen is going to be able to do just enough to be able to keep this game under, but I think that this is going to be a Samsung Lions drubbing. And if you're taking a look at the Samsung Lions on the run line, at a lot of places to begin the day you were getting a plus price. This is now between even and minus 110, but still a very good value. You're going to be taking the Lions on the run line and the total under, and that will wrap things up for the Tuesday afternoon / Wednesday morning edition of the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And if you have a question for the podcast, start into my timeline at yours41. Big thanks to William Boor of MLB.com for joining me in the second segment. Hopefully you're all safe, healthy, and doing well. I'll talk to you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, you're a school counselor and new homeowner and grad student. You're an Ander. National University supports the whole you, so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at nu.edu.